Welcome to the hour. It's time for unscripted prophetic ministry.
Welcome to the hour, I guess. Welcome to the podcast. It is a privilege and honor to be with you guys. Really, it is. Do me a favor, like, share, get this podcast out. I just feel like I wanted to do a check-in today. See where you are, see how things are going. Let me know if you can hear my fan in the background, just because I'll cut it off if I need to. But I want to see how you guys are doing. What have you been up to? What kind of temptation, what kind of challenge, what kind of consistency or lack thereof has been going on in your life? Have you been maintaining the hour? Or have you been attacked mercilessly? Or have you been tempted? Have you been pulled in multiple directions? You know, it's interesting when we get into a routine and we allow other people a time and space to minister to us, and then that gets taken away, we find out what's really in you. Because if you're dependent upon me for your time with the Lord, I'm not doing a very good job as a leader. Now, I can give you the word, and I can minister the word to you, but we've had 400 podcasts, and if you're looking for things to study and you haven't gone back, then I haven't taught you well. Those of you that are regular. So think about this, like there's been 400 podcasts that we've done. And if you haven't reviewed any and you've just been coasting through this last, let's say 2 weeks, then that's a problem. And that problem has to be addressed. Now, it has to be addressed either by calling you out or confronting you, but it's got to be a heart posture. Like, it's never going to be enough information for you. It's never going to be enough substance. Like, if we have to be spoon-fed to study, then that means we're still babies, and that's okay. It's really okay, especially if you're aware of it. But those who are calling themselves like a part of the local gathering, you especially, if you haven't studied anything, if you haven't gone back over the word, and you haven't had a quiet time, shame on you. Now, that doesn't mean I'm put shame on you. That means there needs to be conviction on you. Because you cannot live by someone else only feeding you. So, if you think about that, I really felt the urge to check in. I wanted to check in to see how people's consistency has been. Where are you spiritually? Where are you when studying the word? Where are you in getting the word concerning? Where are you in your quiet time? So I don't need an answer, but I want you to wrestle with it. When we have consistent connections, you can't hear a thing. Okay, cool. So when we have consistent connections, it's easy because we got accountability. It's easy when we have consistent connections, we can have accountability. But what happens when that gets taken away for you for a season? This is what COVID was like for me. I relied on other people to minister to my family. And when that was given, or that was taken away, then I ended up having to feed my family ourselves. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Same thing when Apostle George took a break or just ended the relationship with me for at least a year. It sucked, but it was one of the best learning experiences I've ever had in my life. I had to grow up. And I feel like the path that he's giving us to take, the path that he's taking right now for us as a family, it's really about growing up. It's about growing up. Don't feel bad if you've grown more from our time not together. Don't feel like that's a bad thing. But those of you who haven't, you have to ask yourself the question, why? Is he enough? Is he a priority in my life? Is he worthy of my attention, my affection? We need accountability. We need the consistency. But it's not always going to be perfect, and it's not always going to be readily available. What happens if the whole system crashes? What are you going to do? What happens when we make a transition like we're doing right now? Are you just going to stay the same, or are you going to grow? You still got life to live. You still have struggles that you encounter. That's why we need community just as much as we need someone teaching us. You know what I mean? So it's been a really interesting last couple of days. There's been a lot more clarity. There's quite a bit more direction. And I'm learning how much false humility has robbed me from doing what I feel that I'm supposed to do. And I wonder, I see how much, the fear of being confident, the fear of being prideful, the fear of being misunderstood has hindered my ability to really let go and to follow the Lord. Because I don't want to be disliked. I don't want to be accused of being controlling, or like the ministry is all about me. That's a difficult position for me to put myself in, but it's where he's leading us. And over the last, let's say 10 days, there's been a common theme throughout. There's been a common observation throughout when it comes to the people in Arizona, when it comes to my wife, when it comes to the people around me that have given input that don't necessarily know what's really going on. So we're heading the right direction. What kind of temptations have you guys faced? What kind of attacks have come at you? What kind of demonic snake in the grass kind of deception has tried to come upon you to get you to give up the word, to get you to get distracted, to get you to go to a different direction, to get you to question your place or your position as a son, as a daughter, as a connection to this ministry? Those are real. Those are real. So I felt like I needed to address some things in that area. Like, hey, don't get distracted right now. Don't fall into temptation that you don't have to. Don't let people punk you. Don't let people pull you into a direction that you don't want to go. And certainly don't let the enemy make you feel a certain way, especially as an orphan. Don't be insecure. Don't be weak. Don't be fearful. Stay consistent. Stay in position. And that position doesn't have to have anything to do with me. It can have everything to do with him, whether I'm here or not. It should be the same. It's just easier when I am to give you more direction. But here, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's get real. Let's get real. There is so much information that is being released by our media team. It's almost impossible for you to absorb it all. And this is where I'm headed. We have 14 videos, including 2 reels a day, 5, 6, 7, 8 podcasts that are at least 2 hours each, or at least an hour and a half each. There's been so many so much information that's been released to you. One, the media team can't keep up with thumbnails. And that's even now where there's only 1 or 2 videos to do. Like, there's a backlog to try to finish these videos. And it's like, if they can't even do the thumbnails, it's like, I'm thinking for you guys, is like, how do you even keep up with the what's being taught? So if we're really honest, I wonder how much of what's being created is dependency versus equipping. You need me to give you a word, but you don't have time to do anything with that word. So all you're doing is sitting under teaching. There's no applying. Let me say this. There may be no applying. There may not be enough to study. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if this is landing the way that I feel like it needs to land, but it's an observation that I've had. Not many people have 2 hours a day that they can devote to hearing a podcast, let alone studying after. And then it's like, what do you study? So you get my point, right? So this is why we shut everything down, or I feel like the Lord led me to shut everything down. If my media team can't keep up, how are they to keep up and study themselves? If you can't find content when going through my YouTube channel, then something needs to change. Like, I don't want to just be throwing out all of this information and it not be searchable, specific, and effective for you. So then I'm just building a library of stuff that doesn't have a searchable answer. Yeah, the only thing that you can search for is Jezebel right now. And maybe Leviathan. There was one video that I did on Leviathan that got really a lot of traction, and it was because it answered a question. Meredith and I were talking last night because she's wired the exact opposite of me, and it's not a bad thing. And I was telling her, like, we have hours upon hours upon hours of content. And it's like, what do I do with that? Like, how do I frame that in ways? Because if you take one podcast, there's 5 different topics. And those 5 different topics can be 5 different mid-form content, like 3 to 5 minute videos. But I don't have the team to be able to actually chop all those down now. So it's like, we've got to start from here forward. I would like, and I've asked this before for anybody that's interested, I would love some people to search our content and highlight some really important videos that can be, let's say, cataloged differently. But I have to start thinking about this in reverse. If I'm struggling, if I'm going through something, like, seriously, if you're struggling with something right now, how would you find it on our YouTube channel? Aside from Jezebel, how would you find it? Because the titles don't match always the full context of the podcast, because it's almost impossible to do that. Because it's for 2 hours, there's 4 different subjects. So looking at the past has to change the way I look at the future. Because I don't want to continue to produce content that you can't find, that you can't apply. So think about it. Like, if you're struggling with the subject, you Google it. If you don't Google it, you search it through YouTube. So you ask a question that has to be answered. But how much of our content is actually answering a question? Now, For those of you that have been here, that are a part of the hours, you know there's meat, there's revelation that's being released. You know there's a deep context of information that's being received, the revelation that's being received. So that's good for you. But what happens if you, what do you do with that afterwards? Audra does something really special. She sent me notes of my last podcast and she broke it down in the way that she thinks. And I'm like, that was so valuable to me. And now I'm thinking, okay, if we can do that for every podcast, but what happens when we have 14 podcasts? You see what I mean? Because then people feel left out because they can't keep up with the time, especially my wife. My wife can't keep up. So, and she's my, like, she's my helpmeet. She's my partner. She's my wife. We are one. And if she can't keep up because she's not, it's not that she's in sin, she's working. So it's like, okay, this is why we're tearing it all down. For those of you that can be live for the hour, you've grown so much over the last year because you keep showing up. And it's beautiful. And part of the reason that you're growing is because most of us have had a face-to-face conversation. You've been a part of the Defeating Jezebel conference. That's why you're here. And it's like, and it's nobody's fault. Like none of this, like none of this is anybody's fault. But something has to change. And if media team don't get insecure because you didn't have a leader that was able to really, there was things I would communicate, there's things I would ask for, but then by the time it was time to do it, there was something else that needed to be done. And that's good. Rella says, I feel as though even when the content doesn't give you the answers you seek, it gives you questions to ponder on that, then leads you to answers you need. I love that. Thank you for that comment. So moving forward, there's things that are going to shift, and it might take some time to get there. I'm not going to not go live. Like, let me say, I plan to go live consistently again. And I plan to completely change the Recovering Baptist podcast. Okay. So let me have the conversation with you like I had last night with Meredith. People need time with me. If it's Brian Minor Ministries, it's an apostolic covering, people need time with me. Whether that's through podcasting or if that's in person or if that's through intensives, whether that's a conference, whatever it may be. So there has to be a way of bringing more of the gifts the Lord has given me to a palatable, like, touch, like to be able to grab a hold of it. So the Recovering Baptist is going to have to be like one of the main focuses for the broader context of people that are transitioning out of religion. So if the ministry is going to be apostolically covered by me, then guess what we need to have? My testimony. Who is Brian Minor? You guys might know it, but we've never done a testimony for myself. So before we do anything, there has to be a testimony, a telling of the story of who I am, along with part of the book being finished. So it's like how do you have Brian Minor Ministries without my testimony accessible? And I'm talking about, it could be a long version, but a short version, like an elevator size, like speech, former drug addicted pastor, that kind of thing. So there has to be a clarity on who I am. And if you're wanting to spend time with me, whether that's through virtual, in person, whatever it may be, counseling, inner healing, deliverance, whatever it may be, then you need to know what's my story. And I'm thinking about this, like I've wanted to do my testimony so many times, and it's never. No, so that's the crazy thing, Lindsay. It was the first recovering Baptist, but that was nowhere close to who I am. Like I'm talking about, okay, who is Brian Minor? You can't find it. Other people have done podcasts that share my testimony, but we haven't. So the first recovering Baptist episode has to be my testimony. So here's what I'm going to propose to you guys. Now, how it's done is going to be completely different. We're just going to dream about this. But I'm going to propose this to you, whether we follow through all the way or not. It's a different story. I want you over the next couple of days to message me through Instagram questions as if you were interviewing me. Okay, so when we do the first Recovering Baptist podcast, just as a kickoff, then I want you over the next couple of days to send me questions that you want to ask me, and I'll literally go live one day and I'll answer these questions. I'll just read the questions. I have to pre-sort them, but I'm not going to try to think about them before I answer. So in the next week, I would like to do a podcast that answers some questions that a lot of you guys might have. I'm reading your comments. So before we can change anything, like literally, just think about that. Think about that. Brian Minor Ministries without knowing who Brian Minor is. Spending time with Brian virtually, but not knowing who I am personally. Now, you can get a glimpse of it, but you got to put yourself in a position of someone that's not been with me. So here's my testimony. Here's my story. Oh, and by the way, here's my book that's my story. So that's a proper launch or a proper preparation for a launch of a new ministry. And then the gathering, that becomes the circle. Remember, we're not a church, so we learn the most. We can learn the most in circles, where we're face to face. So if we understand that it's not just one person speaking, but there's questions, there's interactions, there's freedom for the Holy Spirit to move and minister to whoever needs to be ministered to. So the gathering will be different, and we're starting this Sunday with an in-person gathering. And all this means is I need to meet with the media team just to make sure we're all on the same page. But yeah, this is where we are. This is where we are. So then the hour will be at some point some daily check-in where we unpack maybe the content that's released through the podcast, the Recovering Baptist podcast, as well as just daily check-ins. But everything that's going to need to be produced, I have to put myself in the mindset, and you need to put yourself in the mindset of questions that get answered. Now, 4 different conversations with 4 different leaders, 4 different conversations with 4 different leaders have said the same thing. One of the most effective things for ministry leaders right now is content that gives descriptions or examples of the spirits that are in operation. So, are you picking up what I'm throwing down? Like, is this making sense? Is this feel like something that you've maybe not been able to put language to, but is answering some questions? And I know it's like a 30-second delay this time versus just 20. But let me know if you're picking up what's being thrown down. Yeah, I've thought about that, Amanda. Even for my daughter, Lawson, who's not on social media, I have to make sure I actually message her. The other thing is the email list. I've got an email list of about 60 people that I've really never done anything with. Hey, Allison, good to see you. So over the next couple of days, just be thinking. Maybe I'll put a story together for those that are outside of this podcast. But like, if you were to interview me, what would be some questions you would ask? It'd really be cool. And I have the capabilities of doing this, is actually pulling you up on a podcast through your phone to ask them. Now, I might try that one time and it might not work, but I think it would be fun to do that for those of you that desire to. So, yeah, there's a lot brewing right now. The other end of this, and some of this, the media guys I haven't really talked to them much at all. And that's not necessarily been intentional, but I feel like it's intentional from the Lord just to help not give them direction without being consistent with it. But like even pre-recording podcast to then present it with an intro and an outro and commercials that lead up to it is really important for me. Like, I've wanted this for a long time, but again, so much content. So the Recovering Baptist podcast would be that pre-recorded. We can get 3 or 4 episodes ahead and really like prepare it. So what would happen if we pre-recorded my interview and then made it into an episode? We'll see. Yeah. So to summarize, the Recovering Baptist will be interviews asking hard questions, hopefully getting to a place of inner healing and deliverance with whoever I interview, getting to a place of actual ministry, not just telling a story. We record it, and then on the back end, we prepare by cutting it down and creating a theme through that so that we can make reels from that as commercials to point back. So there's an intro and there's an outro. There's a way to connect. Okay, so that's the Recovering Baptist. The other part will be the daily check-ins with the hour. We'll continue at some point when the Lord just releases us to do it. We will do what we're doing right now daily, and maybe hopefully it would stay shorter and not be the basis of our reels that would need to be reproduced. Okay, so it would just literally be live ministry, not thinking of it as a podcast. The Recovering Baptist would be the podcast. The hour would be just a live check-in, a prophetic time of ministering. So then when we have the gathering, we'll make it a private link. Those who want to join us as a family to record and go live with the circle so that we can protect people's information and not be actual live for the Gathering Global. That would be our circle time in person that would be recorded virtually. And then, yeah. But here's the thing that I know that I have to do. I have to have in-person time with people. And so thinking of this maybe quarterly, maybe eventually being monthly, but it's almost impossible right now to do it because of the schedule, but is hosting intensives, 2 to 3 day intensives, whether I'm here in Monroe or I'm actually in Arizona. We can make it happen. And that's actually been the proposal of Albert. Is he says, I can sell you better than you can sell you because I've experienced you. And what I do for him is what I feel like I'm called to do with other ministry leaders. And it doesn't have to be just ministry leaders, but those who need true breakthrough. It would be a privilege and an honor to be able to do that in person with people. So hopefully you're all picking up what I'm throwing down. But this is where my mind's been. This is where I feel like my heart is being shifted. And when I say Brian Minor Ministries, well, at some point you have to have time with me. And I have to get over it as far as false humility. So then when the reels that are daily don't have to be so saturating, they can be really focused upon the podcast, highlighting those who I'm interviewing. But the heart of the ministry has to be getting to one-on-one with people. And so here's where I'm headed, and I'm going to meet with some people to walk through this, but the heart of the ministry is get to one-on-one in small groups. So if you're really struggling right now and you really need deeper work, is making it available for you guys to meet with our inner healing deliverance coaching team. What I feel my role is going to be in that is ministry leaders, fivefold business leaders, without, and in couples right now, but like that's going to be the foundation of what we're trying to get to. So whether that's a subscription, whether that's a suggested donation, or if that's a different kind of process, each of us need some time and space with one-on-one help. It's not always possible. It's always not practical. But having that available is a solution to people. Because there's certain problems that can't be podcasted out. There's certain things that can be ministered to and they can be released, but when I have a team like I do that can minister to you, I want to make that accessible to those who are hungry. So I felt like I needed to update you guys and give this whole overview, and still I'm processing it out loud as well. But I love what I'm doing with recovering the Pines. I love what I'm doing with the Abode Church right now. I love what's happening with ministry leaders that are humble and hungry, that are getting time with me to like minister and to just flow. I'm going to see so much fruit in that. So if I had a choice in this, like if I had a narrowed specific person that I was wanting to reach, it would be fivefold ministry leaders. It would be pastors of churches, business leaders, because my time with them can help them impact what they're doing locally. So think about this. The quote has been, strengthen local to be mobile, to go global, to help them locally. And that's the vision. So those who aren't in that genre still could get the one-on-one attention, but it won't always be with me. It'll be with our team. So, and then anybody can come to the intensives, those that are hungry enough to make the choice and pay the fee and fly, like y'all did for the recovering Jezebel conference, the defeating Jezebel conference. All right, again, you picking up what I'm throwing down? Is this making sense? Do you see this? Now, this will have to be written out and made clearly so that you can read it and run by, okay? But I feel like I needed to give you guys an update and to check in on how you are. Because some of you have been really, really good at hiding. You're struggling. You've made difficult decisions. Your conscience is not clear. You're struggling right now. And the only way to overcome that is you got to confess it. Like, you've got to bring what's in the dark to light. And podcasts like this or live streams like this are not always the case. Like, you can continue to hide if you want to hide. But some of you need the smaller group because you got stuff you got to release. Because you've been hiding and you're a professional hider. And there's certain things you don't want me to know, because if you know that I know, then your conscience is not clean right now. And so it's funny how the Lord works. It's really interesting how things go, because some people think I know things and I don't know things. And then other people think I don't know things and I know things. I just don't say it. But the way the prophetic shepherding works is we cannot violate our conscience. And we can't. And when we do, we've got to be quick to repent and quick to confess that, so that we can walk in confidence, not being concerned with being exposed, someone catching us in the act of whatever we're doing. But that creates a double life. It really does. It creates a double life. It's funny when it happens, because it doesn't have to be that way. I know, because I've lived that way. And I still struggle in this way. But like, we don't have to live this double life. We don't have to control the narrative. We don't have to control the way that other people perceive us. Do you know how exhausting it is to struggle and to manage other people's perceptions of it? It's exhausting. And some of you are tired right now because that's what you're doing. You've made some dumb decisions. You're making dumb decisions. And instead of like addressing that, you're running away from it. And it's only making it worse. And then you're blaming your job or your relationships on your tiredness. No, it's your conscience that's being violated that's crushing you. We can busy ourselves so much, and we can blame our have-tos with the reason that we're tired. No, all of it is just pride. Pride. If you're tired right now, there's some sort of pride that you're operating in. And what I mean by that is that you're doing something in your own strength. You're trying to make certain things happen. You're trying to control and manipulate and manage relationships. So you act one way with this group, and you got a different group that you act a way you don't want. I used to do this with Apostle George all the time. There were certain decisions I made that I didn't want him to know about. I hid Christmas from him for a little while. Like, I didn't want him to know that I had a Christmas tree in my house. So I would intentionally not invite him over because I didn't want to hear it, and I didn't want him to see it. There were certain things that I just did not want him to know because I wasn't ready to change them or address them. Mainly because it was attached to family, and I wasn't ready to make that stand yet because I wasn't being a good thermostat for my home. So some of you are unnecessarily struggling right now. You don't have to. You don't have to feel the way that you do. So things are changing. Things will be transitioning. Who knows? Some of you might be being put in a position to help me with all this. And I think, Audrey, you're going to be one of them. I really do. I think the way that you're helping me right now is really important. And I need someone like you. How do I describe you? Like a Rolodex of information to help me to continue to do the things that I do. So just want you to know how noted it is how you're helping me right now. It's like the details that you operate in are really important. So I need a strong, confident woman who's can be stubborn in a good way to help manage me, manage my time, if that makes sense. So I just want you to know it's seen. So behind the scenes, things will have to change. There will be shifts that need to be in place and some accountability, but we will relaunch Brian Minor Ministries, and it won't look like too much changes. But from behind the scenes, things will change. Things will change. Any questions with any of this? I was actually coming and checking on you, but I didn't expect to really bring all this out. But I want to see if there's any questions or thoughts around this whole idea, specifically about what we're doing as a ministry. Can you give it some time? I'm glad to see Instagram is staying with me. Sometimes it's not working. You guys on Instagram, give me a thumbs up if you're still with me. Here lately, the lives, when I go 3 ways of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Instagram really crashes halfway through. So the other thing I haven't really talked about, as you have questions, ask them, was every time someone needs help, they comment below, we send them a welcome video that addresses the avenues of help that are available for them. Hey, Lisa, good to see you again. Love you. So when we have people that are now reaching out for help, there's a structure behind for the hungry ones. There's so many people that say they want help but don't do anything to follow through with it. There's so many people that want help that say they want help, but they're too either prideful or they're in too big of a they're not able to humble themselves to make that decision. So that's what Marathon and I are working with. So giving you guys a preview of our summer. Baseball will end the last weekend of June. July 4th, we're going to Arizona for probably 7 to 10 days as a family. And then looking at maybe the last week. So then we're going to take a lake trip with my family. But it looks like, hopefully, like I'm not, the last weekend of July, maybe first weekend of August. That's when I would like to do it. So that's regardless of what happens around it, like just to have that time as like a getaway for all of us. And whether that'll be, yeah. I would like to at some point then have a conference in Arizona at some point as well. And what that would look like would have to be worked out below, but later. But I would at least like to start with 2 conferences, one at least in 26 and definitely another one in 27. But I'm going to say this prophetically. We've got to be prepared to not be able to travel at some point. Like, I feel like there's an urgency in some of the in-person gatherings and experiences that we need to have as a family. Because I feel like when the poop hits the fan, we're not going to be able to travel like we can now. That's pretty funny, Braden. That's true. So since Braden, I'm not sure if Christian or Noah's on. I think you guys are working, but if you see this later, and we'll talk about this in person, but what I would need from you guys is to prepare to record interviews, and as post-record, chop it up into reels, and then do commercials for each podcast, which we would do weekly. That is the main thing that I want to do with you guys. So beginning, like, to be able to like break that up and to do that would be really important. So that would be the focus that I want for the media team. The only focus at this point. Then it would come with Audra. I would have to sit down with her and just think through lanes of communication. And then I would handle my own reels. I would handle my own reels that are more personal. So if we get that foundation going, then I want to do vlogs like crazy. And that might be, I have to get used to using the camera, posting just personal reels, nothing fancy. But I think that would narrow a focus for you guys and give you some direction. So that would be the only thing. The separate thing that I would like to do is really recording my testimony. I think that might have to start before the Recovering Baptist podcast do. But Lisha Bear, I've never asked you this, but would you be willing to be interviewed? Just think about that. I've got about 3 or 4 people. I would interview Albert. I want to interview Diet. I will want to interview Pastor Austin from the Abode, the people that I've worked with privately. I'd love to interview Doug. He's a machine. But I think it's important for you guys to meet the people of Arizona. Because that's what you're supporting. So thinking about you, Elisha Bear, I just want you to know that might be on the table if it's something that you're willing to discuss. So it's not a have to. Any questions, comments, concerns? That's beautiful, Elisha Bear. Any questions, comments, concerns? I like the idea of the text chain, whoever suggested that. I think it's important to let you guys know when I go live. And with the testimony, it doesn't have to be so cinematic. It can be really simple. Literally just sit down, let me share the testimony, and then you can put some B-roll behind it. So the grace will be there to do it. We just got to sit down and do it. Any other questions, comments, concerns? For those of you that are new, I know this is weird, but you're loved. The work that's being done in Arizona, the relationships, the connections, they're really important to me personally. And the way the Lord's working through pride. Gosh, I just want you guys to I want you to watch me interview Albert. I have never seen so much change in a person before. I've never seen someone who I've never seen this much change in a person before. And I'm watching the word work. I'm watching the assignment that I've been sent there to do work. I've never seen so much change in relationally and Doug and Tataya. I've never seen I haven't seen fruit like this from a connection with a group of people in a long time. And the common denominator is extreme humility and a willingness to fight and not run. Especially if I know I can't chase, like I'm watching these guys and these ladies like completely humble themselves and be willing to be wrong and be willing to be corrected and to relationally set themselves in a position where they're in, regardless of how they feel, regardless of what they're going through. I'm watching what I'm experiencing with Pastor Austin. I just love that man. I love him, the Abode family, and what the Lord's doing in and through them. And some of this stuff just needs to be shared. I love what's happening with Pastor Chad Norris. Like the process the Lord is taking him through in the humility. What is today? Wow, I just made a mistake. Okay, I've got to go. Lawson, we need to talk. Okay, I've got to go. So speaking of one of them, I have a meeting that I have to go to at 2:30 with a prophet that I just got reminded for. And I'm so glad I just looked at that. And so that means Lawson and I have to go on a date now. Okay. I love you guys. Text me your questions. Let me know. Let me know seriously what you would ask me if you were to interview me. Send it through Instagram, through messages, through the messenger. Also, or Facebook Messenger, it doesn't matter. Also, if you don't have access to apps, you can text me if you know my number, or email me at info@thegathering. Brian, let's do it this way, brian@thegathering.global. If you have questions that you want to ask me. But I love you guys. I'm thankful for you. I'm praying for you. And we'll be back again soon. Love you guys. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening. And I love you all. Let me get my thumbnail up. Bye.